Yeah, okay. So we're reaching. There are actually 5 sections in the What Would You Do book. So we're starting section 2, which is
Siri
the
_bot is here. Siribo arrive.
which is called tempi speed problems. And there's a preface of this section in the book. So we will go through this preface together, so that hopefully you'll do better in today's 20 questions. So first thing I would like to explain is there's a number 1 theorem in efficiency, which is called keeping 2 pairs maximizes number hand efficiency. No matter how complicated the shape is, if you keep 2 pairs, then you're probably doing the right thing. And there are 3 examples. The first one is this 2 2 4, so 4 5 5 and 3 3 p, and you count the number of pairs, and there are 3 pairs. So in order to keep 2 pairs, you have to break one of them, and it's pretty much comparing breaking 2s or breaking 5m. But when you break 5m, then
Jerry Pride Pog.
Hello. So if you break 5m, then if you draw the 2 so 3p shampong, then you can wait on 3 6 months. But if you break 2s, then if you draw the 5 month 3p shampong, you'll be waiting on kanchong 3s. So it's better to fix a good shape than to fix a bad shape if you're breaking a pair. And for the second problem, you have 2 pairs already. So in order to keep those 2 pairs, the only choices are 4so and 4m. And similarly, by cutting 4m, you keep a kanchong, but by cutting 4so, you keep a ramen. So you're cutting 4so. And in the third pattern, in order to keep 2 pairs, you have to choose between 3so and 4man. And both choices are correct, unless there are some like sanjoku or some other stuff that is happening. So the thing is, you might want to fix a ramen like in the first problem, but let's say if you cut 5m, by keeping only 1 pair, you have effectively discarded 2 tiles at once. You've discarded both 5m and 3s, because by cutting 5m, you have fixed the pair to be 2s, so that any tile around this 2s becomes useless immediately. Because once you cut 5m, it's pretty much a ramen, and this 3so is now useless. So you have to, in order to maximize efficiency, you're deciding between 3s and 4m. And so that's it for explaining these 2 tiles that maximize efficiency thing. And the preface is about there are 3 kinds of best Ishanten, which should be the goal when you're building your hand. And the way to memorize these patterns is by the number of pairs. So there are 3 kinds, and each has 0, 1, or 2 pairs. The first one has 0 pair, and it's called headless triplet Ishanten, where you have a triplet of something and a ramen. And the total acceptance is not only the ramen 6-9man or 4-7s, but also the 7-8 and 5-6s itself. Because if you draw 6-9m, then you can cut the 2m into the pair so that you can wait on this ramen. And if you draw the 7man or 8man itself, then you just cut the other tile to wait on the other ramen. So the total acceptance is 28, and it gives 100% gives you good shape weight. So this is a very strong shape. And the 1 pair best Ishanten is the floater Ishanten or Kutsuki Ishanten. Essentially, if you have only 1 pair, then these 2 other isolated tiles needs to be in 2 different suits, like they can't form a block, because otherwise it's or tempai already. So this is why 1 pair best Ishanten can only be this floater Ishanten. And floater Ishanten is the widest Ishanten. For any floater you have, within the range that is plus or minus 2 of this floater, you can always get tenpai. But then only the tile that is plus or minus 1 next to the floater gives you a good shape. Other tiles like 3 and 5M gives you either kanchang or shampong. So the chance of getting a good shape is only 42%, less than half of the case. But still, it is the widest Yishanten. This total number of acceptance is the best among all. And finally, it's the second pair. It's the 2 pairs best Yishanten, which is called complete Yishanten or kanzen Yishanten, where you have a ramen, and one of the ramen is upgraded by a pair, and you have another separate pair. So the acceptance is this ramen 36158S and this shampong of 3P and 4M, which is also 100% good shape Yishanten. No matter what you draw, you can always guarantee to get a ramen weight. So these are the three. So these are the 3 patterns, 3 kinds of best Yishanten. So the thing is, in order to aim to build these patterns, you need to not only memorize and get familiar with these patterns, but also keep in mind that there are tiles that can potentially gives you a better Yishanten. That can, even if you're not at a good Yishanten, even if you're not at one of those Yishantens, there are tiles that potentially gives you that potential to develop into that one of the best Yishantens. So, for example, in this hand, this is a Yishanten of Penchang 7S and 1,4P, and you draw this 5M, which doesn't help, which isn't helpful to this immediate Yishanten. It doesn't give you any extra acceptance. So you might want to cut this 5M and keep this south as safe tile, let's say. But the thing is, there's a concept called pair transfer. So when you have a bad shape like this 8-9S here, if you draw this bad shape into a pair by drawing one of the 8s or 9s, then you can transfer the pair of this 4M into this bad shape, so that this 4M is freed into forming ramen with the tile next to it. So that previously you have a very narrow Yishanten with low good shape percentage. Now you develop into a kanzen Yishanten, best 2-pair Yishanten with 100% good shape rate. I hope I'm not going too fast, but so the key thing is, can you recognize the upgrade from here? Can you recognize that this 5M is potentially useful because this Yishanten is a 12-tile Yishanten, but there are 6 tiles of A9S that moves from a bad Yishanten to a good Yishanten. That's the difficult thing about this Yishanten upgrade. Another example is a hand like this, where you have a triplet, a pair, and a ramen, and then you draw a tile right next to this pair, and this tile doesn't look helpful as well because this doesn't help with the ramen, so you might want to cut it and keep south as the safe tile. But then if you draw one of the 5-8 pin that makes this into a sequence first, then this hand develops into a headless triplet, which is the best 0-pair Yishanten. So when you compare these Yishanten, previously you have the acceptance of ramen, which is 16 tiles, 100% good shape. But with this best Yishanten 0-pair, there are 28 tiles, also 100% good shape rate, which means that there are essentially 8 tiles that doubles your Yishanten acceptance, apart from those 16 tiles that immediately gives you tenpai. So the thing is, can you recognize the upgrade that the 7P is potentially useful to develop this Yishanten into a better Yishanten from here? And so that is what we are trying to convey here by, what is the best Yishanten and why you should aim to reach one of those best Yishanten. when you're building your hand. Yeah. Any questions so far? If not, then we'll just go through last week's problems. I don't think Vivi is joining us still. Okay, so 43 assistant maybe. Chat. Is there other complete Ishanten beside perfect? No, that's the only perfect. I mean, it's called complete Ishanten, perfect Ishanten, but then it's actually the worst Ishanten among the three because you can see that the acceptance is the narrowest. It's just how it's how it's referred to. Ah, I see. Okay. I think it's just it's a translation from Japanese. That in Japanese they call it kanzen Ishanten, and in English it becomes complete or perfect, so that people got confused. But then it's just the best two pair Ishanten. That's all. So could you answer question 43? I guess it's too early to change my screen to. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, 9S, because the duplication 8S. If you cut 7P, you're getting bad shape Rishinomi pretty much. 47 Moth?
This was 6S?
No. One more chance.
Is it 7S?
No, this hand hint we watched the Emily game because of this hand.
Wait. Okay, so here you wanted to do the Okay, so was this when you break and you deal like 9p or something?
No, it's not about breaking. It's about comparing backfires.
Okay.
So by if you like breaking any of the ramen loses 8 tiles of acceptance. But then if one of those backfire gives you some other value, then that backfire becomes useful. So then if one of the backfire is useful, then that kind of breaking doesn't lose 8 tiles anymore. It only loses 4 tiles. So here breaking 4-5p is better because only 3p is the backfire. If you draw 6p, this 5, 6, 7, 8p gives you a central balance. So only 3p is the backfire. In order to keep this 5, 6, 7, 8, you need to cut 4p first when you break the 4, 5p. Because if you backfire on 6p, then it's acceptable. So 6p is no longer a backfire. Then you're only losing 3p. And if you break 6-7s, you're losing both 5-8s. If you break 6-7m, you're losing both 5-8m. Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So 49, Monica.
Okay. This is this a 2S?
No. So this Sozu shape is a 1, 2, 3 plus 2, 4, 6, right?
I just was thinking, like, if you did cut like the 2p, like you still get the acceptance for.
Wait, did you say 2s or 2p?
Huh? 2s. I said 2s.
Yeah. So if you cut 2s, then you're breaking this 2, 4, 6 rankan, right?
Oh, okay.
So you lost the 3s kanchang.
Oh, wait, no. Oh, wait. I'm looking at this now. Wait, okay, wait. So is it 2p then? Wait a second.
No, because 2p, you don't have a pair yet. So 2, 3, 4, 5 is a Nobitan. It gives you both 2p and 5p acceptance for immediate pair.
So then, is this then a 5p then?
No, 5p is the same as 2p. So the answer is 6s.
Dang. Oh.
So you're breaking this 2, 4, 6 rankan because, as I explained, you have Ramen here, you have Nobitan here, which is both very good. So you don't want to cut any of the Pinzu or Manzu, and then Sozu is the most flexible thing because they're just kanchans. We like to break kanchans. So you're comparing cutting 2s and cutting 6s. So the basically the difference is what happens if you cut 2s and backfire on 3s, and what happens if you cut 6s and backfire on 5s.
I guess it's actually not terrible even if I get 5s after
cutting 6s. Yeah,
cutting 6,
exactly,
because like I could still get the 3, 5, or 5.
Yeah, because after you cut 6s, if you draw 5s, then you just cut the 1s, so that 2s is your pair now.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. But if you cut 2s and backfire on 3s, you get 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 6, which is not good at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So 54, then very sweet.
Was this 7S?
Yeah, 7s. Okay. Cool. Yeah, this one is for Vivi, but she's not joining, I guess. Okay. So today is the last day of chapter 1. Oh wait, we haven't done this week's 20 questions. I just realized. Oh man. Okay. So, okay. Copy responder link, shorten URL. Dora Storm. Okay, so here's the form. And the 20-minute timer that starts. No. You know what? I actually forgot to paste those questions into the slides, so I'm gonna do it now. Maybe I can just show you another screen. This one? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna paste those questions. Starting with this, and this. Okay, time is up, and yeah, we got all the responses. Okay. Yeah, this week is better than last week. So the only problems are 68, 72, 74, 68. Yeah, 68 is basically when you have, if you want to use this manzu shape as, did I turn on my mic? Okay. So if you want to use this manzu shape as a three-sided, which means that if you want to draw 6-man, 8-man, 9-man, then you're using 7-man as your pair. But the thing is, you already have 9-so pair. So imagine what happens when you draw, let's say, 6M. You get 6, 7, 7, 7, 8 with 9, 9-so. And now you have a really ugly 7-man and 9-so shampoo, which is really useless because you already have 3 of the 7-man. So this shampoo is just, this shampoo becomes your bottleneck. So when you have another pair, this 8M isn't a composite shape with the triplet. It's on the contrary, it is blocked by this 7M triplet. It is a worse floater because it's blocked by a triplet that is near it. So the only tile that is you're really satisfied with by keeping 8M is drawing the 4th 7M actually. Only when you draw the 4th 7M, you get a weight on 6, 9M and use 9-so as your pair. But it's really unlikely because you already have 3 of the 7M. So this 3P and 4-so it's not blocked by this triplet, so it's a better floater than this 8M. And 72 is an interesting case. Actually, yeah, let's use the little tool developed by IC to explain this. So you get 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 6. So we got this hand. Is my screen sharing correct? I think so, yeah. Okay. So if you think of this penzu as, let's say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you're saying, oh, I'm looking for a pair in sozu. So you're separating sozu into this 2 separate 2 R Liangmen, which is a reasonable decomposition. It's basically decomposing into a complete Ishantian where you have 2 pairs, and some several Ramens. So your acceptance is 1 for 7P for this, 2 5S for this, and 3 6S for this, which is a valid decomposition. It's a valid decomposition. By cutting 5P, you're guaranteed to have a good weight. If you draw any of these, you can wait on 2 5S or 3 6S. If you draw 2 5 or 3 6, you wait on this 1 4 7. But the thing is, this hand doesn't necessarily needs to be. The 5P can be used as a pair as well. So we shouldn't rush to a conclusion that this 5P is just a floater that we want to discard. Get 2, 3, 4, 2, 4, 5, 6, 6. Yeah. So it's the same thing when you have a triplet or when you have a pair. What if 5P is our pair? So any triplet can be also viewed as either a triplet or a pair. So we should do the same thing for 5P. What if 5P is our pair? If 5P is our pair, then 6P becomes our floater. And since we already have a pair, we're looking for sequences in the sozu. So we have this sequence 2, 3, 4 sequence 4, 5, 6. So this hand can also be viewed as a floater Ishanten with 3 floaters. 6p, 2s, and 6s. So if you think of this hand as a floater Ishanten, then like obviously 2-so is the worst floater. And the thing is, if you see what happens if you cut 2s, if in this upper picture, by cutting 2s, you lost 2 5s, right? So, but the thing is, since 6-so is also our floater, if we draw 4 5s, then you actually got a Sozu 3-sided weight. So because of the 6-so floater, so you didn't lose anything. The only thing you lost is 2-so. So in the complete Ishanten picture, if you draw 2-so, then you can wait on 147p. By drawing 5-so, you can wait on 147p. But then here, what we're saying is, since we also have another alternative understanding that is a floater Ishanten, by drawing 5-so, you can have a Sozu multi-sided instead of a Penzu multi-sided. So that's why cutting 2-so is better here. So this hand is very interesting because the hand isn't necessarily like, it doesn't have to be a floater Ishanten, or it doesn't have to be a complete Ishanten. Sometimes it can be viewed as both, and you really need to consider both, because this shape is only, the 5p is only incorrect because of the Sozu is duplicating. Basically, you're holding too many of the 3-so and 5-so in your own hand. If this thing becomes a Manzu shape, then probably 5p will be the correct choice, because there's less duplication. The duplication is that if you draw this 5-so into this Aryaman, you can also use it with the 6-so floater. But then when this becomes 4, 5, 6, 6 mon, then cutting 5p is a better choice now. Does that make sense? Because these floaters aren't strong anymore. By cutting 5p, you're fixing, you get 100% good shape. 147p, 2 5s, 3 6 mon. That's how you can guarantee you have a 100% good shape rate. But here, when you have this, of course, by cutting 2s, you get a lot of bad shape, right? You can, if you draw AP, because of 60 floater, if you draw AP, it becomes a bad shape. If you draw 8s, it becomes a bad shape. But then we didn't lose any good shape acceptance compared with the previous decomposition. So that's the reason why. Okay. Change stream, entire screen to the slides, and then 79, 80. Okay. 79, 80. 79 is, it's basically a floater Ishanten where you have 6 mon floater, 3-so floater, and 6-so floater. And the 6-so floater, 3-so floater is very good because it's supported by a bulging shape. So if you draw anything that is 1, 2, 4, 5, you get a good shape weight. The only good thing about keeping 6-so is that if you draw 5-so, you get a 3-sided 147. But then the 6-so acceptance around it, it's highly duplicating with the 3-so, because 4-so, 5-so is also accepted by 3-so. And then the only extra ones that 6-so brings is the higher Sozu, but you're holding too many of them already in your own hand. So, and also remember, when 8-so is the Dora, 7-so is the Dora indicator. So 7-so is once extra used already. And we don't really, so the disadvantage of keeping 6 mon is that you get a lot of bad shape weight. If you draw 4M, if you draw 8M, you get bad shape. But we don't really care about this bad shape because we have the ability to Dama. We have Ipeiko Dora 2. Even if we get a bad shape, we can Dama this 52 very safely. So we don't really care about bad shape here. The acceptance is more important. And 80 is basically you have the identical shape in Sozu and Manzu. We're basically comparing what happens if you draw 7 Man or 7S, because drawing 5 Man or 5S is the same, and they're both 3-sided. When you draw 7M, you got a 6, 7, 8, 8 where you're waiting on 5, 8 Man, but you're already holding 2 of the 8, so the tiles that are waiting are 6 tiles, 4 of the 5 and 2 of the 8. But when you draw 7S, this is an open-ended ramen, so you get 4 5S and 4 8S. So this is the similar blocker effect that is of floater. This 6-man floater is blocked by the pair itself, so it's worse than the 6 of which is free, which is not blocked by anything. Yeah. Okay. Let me see any questions? Let me see the chat. My brain. I mean, so the hope is that, like, I could have just give you these 220 questions all at once, and I say, oh, through these 3 months, I hope you can finish all these. But the hope is we're giving you 20 questions each week, only 20 questions each week, so that in each week I hope that you can really master these 20 questions, so that week by week, hopefully at the end of 11th week, you can confidently say, okay, if you give me any one of those 220 questions, I will get them right. If I encounter the same hand in my MJS ladder, I will play it right. So that means that you have now had the ability to do very good efficiency. I mean, efficiency is essentially a pure skill. It isn't like any kind of like philosophy or any math or something. It's just a pure skill, like how you tackle those shapes, how you relate the shapes with the yaku. So that's I wouldn't say so that's the reason why in week 1 I mentioned that you should create your own like error collection, so that for each week, my imagine is mostly about like refreshing memories. If you refresh your memory often enough, this becomes your instinct, and that is like nobody really does all this thinking like when they're actually playing, because there are only 20 seconds of thinking time. Like you can't think for 1 minute for each problem like this when you're like in this exercise format. Like, so that's why the theorem is very, like, this 2-pair theorem is very important, because when you see this, like, we don't really count, oh, my acceptance is 3, so 3, 6. We don't do that. We just know that, hey, we should keep 2 pairs, and we count the pairs. There are 3 pairs, so we break one of them, and there are two pairs, so we cut one of the not pair thing. And that's like, efficiency is about building those instincts. It's not really like thinking. Like you don't need to be like clever or like high IQ. You just need to refresh your memory, so that it's a skill. It's not a something that's advanced thinking or anything. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, like heuristics, maybe. Okay. Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. Okay. So this is the final week of chapter 1. So and also, so this is the final week of single player mahjong. Basically, we've been talking about how to develop your own hand, how to play single player mahjong, and starting from next week, we'll talk about push fold criteria, where you are facing a head start Riichi from somewhere else, and you make the decision of whether I continue to build my hand or not. So this is the final week of single player mahjong, and these are the last but 1 chapters. There's actually 1.14, which is about Riichi on Suji trap. Well, we will talk about that when we talk about safety of Suji. And there's final chapter that wrote myself about call criteria and Honetsu criteria, because this is also part of the single player Mahjong. Okay. So the case we're considering here is a hand like this. For example, if you look at the first hand, if you Riichi on 1M, it's Pinfu no Mi. If the Dora is Haku. If you Riichi on 4M, then it's Sanshoku, but a bad shape. So you're deciding between a good shape without Sanshoku, with a Kanchan, with a confirmed Sanshoku, and it could be with 0 Dora, with 1 Dora, with 2 Dora. And so the first thing is, when we compare the win rate of bad shape, this is the red line is a non-Suji 2-8 Kanchan, with a good shape of Ramen is the above grade line. We can see that the rate that they decay with the turn means that when the game progresses, you have fewer turns that you can draw, so that the win rate gets lower. That's just how win rate decays over time. And the speed that decay over time is the same, essentially. So the win rate of bad shape is 70% of Ramen all the time, no matter which turn you're at. And then we are comparing the EV. We're doing that calculation again. When we have 70% EV but 2 extra Han of Sanshoku, what is our value? And the thing is a little bit more complicated here, because there are cases where when you get the Ramen weight, there are cases where you get Pinfu along with those good shape, and there are cases where you don't get Pinfu because you have a triplet somewhere else. So, for example, for this hand, what we're comparing is if we Riichi on 1M, then we have 30 Fu because of Pinfu when we Riichi and wrong, and so it's 230 Fu, and the EV is let's say turn 5 is 1900. And if we Riichi on bad shape, then it's Sanshoku no, it's Riichi Sanshoku, so it's 340 Fu when we wrong, and then so it's 5200, and the bad shape EV Riichi EV on turn 5 is 2900. So bad shape EV is higher than good shape, and this is more complicated as I explained, because not all the good shape has Pinfu, but still there's one single takeaway that you can summarize from doing all those calculations, which is when the Ramen Riichi value is larger or equal to 3900, then you should choose Ramen. Otherwise, you should Riichi Sanshoku no Mi, because Sanshoku no Mi is only 2600, Riichi Sanshoku no Mi is 52. But Dama Sanshoku Dora 1 plus, because Sanshoku Dora 1 plus is 5200 plus, which is in our bad shape Riichi criteria, is a Dama. So Riichi Ramen value larger or equal to 3900 essentially means that if your Ramen is Pinfu, then you should at least have one extra Han, one extra Dora, so that it's Riichi Pinfu Dora 1, where you'll be choosing Ramen. And if your Ramen doesn't have Pinfu, then you need to have Riichi Dora 2, which is 52. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So even if this table is more complicated than the previous ones, there's still a single line of takeaway you can get from doing all those calculations. As the conclusion you essentially get from reading the book. And then the next 2 chapters talks about Furiton. So let's say if Naiman was previously discarded from your hand, when you have this, you can either choose to Riichi on 2M, which you get a Furiton 3-sided, or you can Riichi on 5-man or 8-man, so that you get a Kanchan 3-man without Furiton. So would you choose the Furiton Samenchan or the Kanchan? Or here, that if 9-man is also previously discarded, you can choose to Riichi on 5-man, take this Furiton, or you can choose to Riichi on 8-man with only 3-6-man that is not Furiton. So we are again comparing win rates of head start Furiton Samenchan with, let's say, normal Ramen or normal bad shape. And we can see that this Furiton, the previous lines, this gray line and the dark red line are the previous one we've shown, where the normal bad shape has 70% win rate of the normal Ramen. And the Furiton 3-sided win rate line is in between those. So which means that Furiton 3-sided is better than bad shape. So which means in the first hand you should Riichi on this Furiton 3-sided. But in the second one, you should reach on this Ramen because Ramen is better than Fullerton 3-sided. Normal Ramen is better than Fullerton 3-sided, which is what like normally you would think. Like of course, not taking the Fullerton would be better because it's a Ramen, and the data supports that instinct. And there are cases where you're now comparing a bad shape Kanchan with a Fullerton Ramen with or without pinful, if like this, and then when you do this comparison, Fullerton Ramen is a little bit worse than the normal bad shape Kanchan. So the takeaway is that when you compare the strength of Tenpai, 2-sided is greater than Fullerton 3-sided, greater than Fullerton 2-sided, larger or equal to bad shape. The equal sign is where you get pinful from taking this Fullerton. So if you get pinful with this Fullerton, then you should take the good shape. If you don't get pinful like this hand, then you should take the Kanchan. Yeah. So the final chapter is about this overtaking condition. So before we explain this overtaking condition, I want to remind you of the rule set of this tournament, which is, for any kind of game, the rule set itself is the most important thing. Like it's more important than how you progress this game or how you play this game. The rule set of the game itself is always the most important thing. So every 1,000 point in game is translated into 1 team point, and based on your placement in the game, you get a different bonus point, which is called a UMA. So first place gets 45, second place gets +5, third place gets -15, fourth place gets -35, and the difference between first place and second place is 40, but the rest are 20. So let's say if you get a 38,000 first, the total amount of points you get for the team is 38 minus the original points you start with, 25,000, plus 45, which is the UMA. So you get 58 points, like this. So you now have this situation where you are South 4 or last, non-dealer, and you are 3,100 away from first place. And Dora is the Chun. And so the question is, do you take this Riichi or do you break something to keep the Dora? And what we're asking is Riichi enough for you to overtake the first place? Because that's all we care about in the tournament. Overtaking first place gives us 40 extra points, which is more than Yakuma. And if you're in the finals with the team of this West player, then you are switching from +40 0 to 0 +40. So it's a net difference of 80. So which is very important. So yeah, I would actually like everyone to write their own answer in the chat. Would you take this Riichi? Like, do the score counting and consider whether this Riichi is enough for you to overtake. yeah, so yeah, Riichi is enough. And so I prepared this sheet for you so that in case some of you don't know how much is Riichi Tsumo Pinfu. So Riichi Tsumo Pinfu is 320 fu, and essentially all you need to remember are three numbers. Basically, 1,000. And is there a pen here? Pen. These three numbers: 10, 1,000, 1,300, 1,600. 10, 13, 16. It's 130 fu, 20, 44, 50 fu. So when you double the han, you double the value or double the fu. So which means 320 fu, which is here, will be the same as 240 fu because it's reducing one han, but doubling the fu. So and 240 fu will be doubling from 140 fu. So and it's also, so 240 fu is the same as 180 fu. It's also the same reason. So all you need to remember is these three numbers, and when you go, let's say 230 fu, you just double from 1,000. 430 fu is 8,000 because of the round of manga. It's just doubling 3 times from 1,000. And if you do Chitway, let's say 225, it's the same as 150. And for one extra han, just double it. And if you get something really weird, let's say 170 fu. 170 fu is essentially just 130 fu plus 140 fu, because 30 fu plus 40 fu is 70 fu. So you're just adding 1,000 with 1,300, you get 2,300. And what dealer pays is half of it, and the rest is what you get from. But you can notice that 1,300 plus 700 multiplied by 2 is 2,700. It's not really the same as what you get from direct hit, which is 26. So this 100 digit is what you need to remember actually. But then there's really limited numbers you're looking at. Like you really don't get something that is like 900. 900 is just not on the table except for 110 fu. So yeah, okay. And now you've taken the Riichi and Kamicha dealt in on turn 8. If you're wrong from Kamicha, then you only get Riichi Pinfu 2,000 points, which is not enough for you to overtake. So you need one Ura. But you have another choice, which is just skip. Then you become 410, but since we are only caring about Tsumo anyway, you can either bet on the Ura or you can skip to bet on the Tsumo. And what would you choose? This is a really important decision because we've been talking about efficiency so much, we've been training so much so that you can maybe win 1 more, 2 more manga in the tournament. But this one single decision is potentially 80,000 points, which is like 2 Yakumas. So this is a very important decision, and there's a quantitative way to do this decision, which I'll be explaining. Yeah, so your instinct is correct, but then let's say if it's turn 12, would you still bet on Tsumo? So you need to have this idea of, yeah, so you need to have an idea like how to estimate what is the chance of hitting Ura and what is the chance of Tsumo for different shape and for different like how much is the hand duplicated, because the more the hand is duplicated, the less chance of hitting Ura. So the chance of hitting at least one Ura, a good approximation is, since there are 34 kinds of tiles in total, we're basically flipping one of those tiles as the Ura indicator. So a good approximation is number of unique tiles in your hand multiplied by 3. That will be percentage, because 1 divided by 34 happens to be around 3%. So for this kind of all unique pinfu, like this hand, the chance of hitting Ura is, with this approximation, is 13 multiplied by 3, which is 39%. So in fact, it's 38%. So the chance of rolling directly on this, the chance of hitting Ura is 39% ish. It's actually 5 man is duplicating, so it's actually 35% ish. And we talked about how what is the chance of Chitui hitting Ura last week. Actually, I told you that it's 20%, and with this calculation, it's 7 multiplied by 3, which is like 21%. So it's a very accurate approximation. And with one extra Condora, the Ura rate is pretty much larger than 50%. And now we're comparing the chance of hitting Ura with the chance of Fullerton, chance of Tsumo. And the chance of Tsumo is basically the chance of Fullerton Riichi win rate. So we're doing this comparison, and this is the chart of Fullerton Riichi win rate. Either the gray line is Simon-chan, the red line is Ramen, and there are two timestamp you can remember, which is turn 9 and turn 12. We've been talking about turn 9 in multiple occasions. Turn 9 is just a magical, it's like a critical point in Mahjong. Like a lot of things changes once you are over turn 9. And at turn 9, the Fullerton Ramen win rate is 30%. You can see from the chart, which is like here. So it's 30%. And the Fullerton Simon-chan win rate on turn 12, which is here, is close to 30%. And you compare, so you can compare like for each turn, it pretty much, let's say now it's turn 9 and it's turn 6, which is here. It's pretty much every one turn gives you a 3% drop in win rate. So which is the same as, you know, here. For any extra unique tile in your hand, the chance of hitting Ura is 3% more. So you basically compare Ura rates with the Tsumo rate to make the decision. If they're similar, or if it's risky, let's say if like dealer is pushing as well, you get chased or something, then it's better to take the wrong, because the wrong, even if you didn't hit Ura, you at least bring home the points from this hand. 2 points, which is and you still have a chance to bet on Ura. So yeah, and does that make sense? And that's it. So the last thing we're going to talk about is this call criteria and Honetsu criteria. So the call criteria is basically two parts. First is when to call, and second is what to call. So when to call depends on how big your hand is. For one hand, you should only call for extremely fast good shapes hand, because calling reduces the number of tiles in your hand, making it very difficult to defend. And you after learning push fold criteria, you have a better feeling why you don't really want to make yourself into those really tough decisions where you are one hand with a kanchang weight and you are pushing into a dealer Riichi and you don't have any safe tiles to fold with, but your hand isn't good, it doesn't have a good weight anyway. So this is really bad. And for two hand, we only call with 5 blocks confirmed and some of the good shapes. It's now acceptable that you still have some bad shapes in your hand, because by calling you can cheat those bad shapes and pawn those bad shapes. But still, calling can potentially be risky. And when you have 3+ hand is where you would actively consider calling. Basically, when you have 3+ hand, you're holding a lot of Doras, and as a result, other people are holding very few Doras, so they will be threatened by your call, which is why calling can be either used as a bluff or as actively building your hand. So a hand that is 3+ hand is considered a good hand, where you should try your best to win. So that's why when you have 3+ hand, you can actively consider calling. And the second question is what to call. So the general guideline is that you should call only the worst shapes, which is Kanchan Shampoo. It's really, so what to call is, calling is really the most delicate subject, which pretty much the least studied subject in Mahjong. No one has written like a really good book on calling criteria. So this is pretty much like people's experience, I would say. And so what calling only the worst shape means that don't cheat ramen. Basically, ramen is pretty much the best shape in your hand, and you should only cheat ramen for the following 3 cases. First one is cheat to tenpai. If you cheat to tenpai, then tenpai and ishanten are very different, because when you are ishanten, you can cheat only from your kamicha. But then if you cheat into a tenpai, even if you have a bad shape, you can start to win from all 3 other players. So you can basically cheat from all 3 other players now, which is a very good improvement. So cheating to tenpai is always acceptable, usually acceptable, I would say. And of course, another thing is if you don't have any bad shapes left, if you only have good shape, then of course you can cheat good shapes, because good shape is your worst shape. And this is also why a Tanyao ramen cheat early game with Tanyao Dora is very threatening, because this means that if this person is a good player, then either the shape is very good or this person is already tenpai. So this is why you should also be alert to Tanyao Ramenchi early game when the Dora is a Tanyao tile. The second case when you can cheat ramen is that you're eliminating a duplication. Let's say if you cheat 2 and 2 for 3 4, if you have 3 4 6 7, the acceptance is 2 5 and 5 8, but this 5 is duplicating. Basically, you can think of this hand as a bad shape 2 plus a ramen 5 8. So by cheat this 2, you eliminate your duplication. So you can also consider this seemingly good shape as a bad shape. That's why you can cheat. If you cheat this, you get a 6 7 ramen that is actually a good shape. And this 3 3 4 4 is the same reason. If you cheat, this hand needs basically twice, needs 2 5 twice, and by cheating once, you ensure that you are left with a good shape. And the third case is where this ramen tile has already shown 3+ time, including the tile that you're about to cheat. So there are 2. If there are 2 of the tiles that are shown already, and the third one is cut to you, then that third tile is where you can start to consider cheat, because this is the kind of the boundary case where this ramen starts to turn into a bad shape because people are cutting it too many times. And there's a last criteria which is an extension of the third one, is that if someone is doing honetsu in this suit, what this means is that potentially this person is holding a lot of this kind of this kind of tile in their hand, so that it might actually already be 3+ times shown effectively, because this person could be holding a lot of them and you don't know. Another important reason is that once this honetsu person overflow in their suit, then no one dares to cut this suit anymore, so that even if it's good in the wall, you won't get it from kamicha anymore. So that's why if someone is doing honetsu in this suit, you can also cheat a ramen even if it's the first one. Bad shape are less or equal to 5. I wouldn't say it's less or equal to 5. I would say less or equal to 4. Yeah. And I mean, I can sort of think that, I mean, if you have larger or greater than 5 tiles, it means that you are waiting on at least more than one kind of tiles, which is, pretty good already. And honetsu criteria is, when would you basically go all in on honetsu? When would you discard everything else in your hand? And there's a advanced criteria by Oi Takaharu. This is what he said in one of his like the videos he made, is that as long as all the shapes in other suits are bad shapes, you can go honetsu. And if you play more mahjong, if you study more mahjong, you would eventually understand why this is correct. It's really true that as long as all shapes are bad shapes, you can just go honetsu. But then this is really difficult for beginners to use. So there's an intermediate criteria which I recommend for you, which is 3 quantitative measurements. So the first one is you have 4 plus blocks in one suit, which is natural because you need 5 blocks in one suit to be a Honetsu. If you have 4 blocks plus some floater or some isolated honor, then you are ensuring that if you chi pon pon, then you can get Tenpai directly. And the second criteria is that if you need to have 3 plus Han, including Honetsu. Basically, what we're saying is Honetsu no Mi is bad, and calling guest wind for Honetsu no Mi is bad because guest wind is essentially your defense material. If you pawn the guest wind, and then if you shorten your hand and then someone else Riichi, your hand is neither big nor defensive because you've pawned your guest wind, so that you don't have anything to fold with, which is bad. So yeah, so that's why we're saying you need to have 1 extra Han besides Honetsu. And the third one is your hand can't be 3 plus Han without Honetsu. What we're saying is if you have some, let's say if a Tanyao Aka or something like that, then the Honetsu isn't really the most efficient way to win this hand anymore. Like by doing a normal hand, you could maybe win this hand faster. So yeah, so these are the Honetsu criteria, and yeah, and that's it. That's it for this week. Any questions? So next week is when you want all of them. If you satisfy all of these 3 criteria, that's when you can go all in on Honetsu. So next week is the first chapter of is the first session on push-fold criteria, which I'm planning to do a mixture of chapter 2 and chapter 3, where chapter 3 explains like the basic of defense, which is essentially a set of minimal defense. And so I can talk about it right now, but essentially what we're trying to say is if your hand is facing a Hester Riichi, if your hand is 2 or more Shanten, in general you should fold everything. When you are 1 Shanten, it's a critical point where if you can do minimal defense to keep your E Shanten, then you can keep pushing. But otherwise you should fold. But then if you're Tenpai, then it depends on the dealing rate of your tile and the value of your hand. Yeah, so we'll talk about this next week. And before next week's session, I hope that everyone can, if you haven't done like any log review with me, try to schedule time to do at least 1 log review, so I can have a understanding of like what I should cover more or less depending on everyone's playstyle. So this statistical mahjong strategy book only covers the criteria when you are Tenpai. So the push-fold criteria of Tenpai. The push-fold criteria of E Shanten is a delicate topic, and it's actually another book. You have a whole different book that covers only E Shanten push-fold criteria. And yeah, I'll be summarizing that book myself a little bit. And yeah, that's, if there's no more question, then that's it for this week. Why is Toy bad? Someone told the worst hand in Mahjong. It's not bad. It depends on the Toy is good. Toy is very threatening because Toy is big and Toy is difficult to defend because Suji defense theory doesn't work. Any kind of defense theory doesn't work for Toy and Chi. It basically depends on the strength of your Toy tile. Let's say you have Dai Sushi, you have Zuiso, like your all your Toy tiles are those that people can't effectively use, and they will cut it to you. So this is good. But then if you're doing Toy with like 5p, 6p, then this becomes bad. So yeah, I wouldn't say Toy is bad. Actually, the if you open the SMS book, chapter 2, 2.1 is about you should be alert to Honetsu and Toitoi. Those are the hands you should be considered as a Riichi, even if they're open hand. Because Toitoi is big. Like Toitoi is 2 han, and it's pretty much always 40 fu. And if you have Aka and Dora, then it's easy mangan. It's the same idea as Honetsu. If I Yakuhai Toitoi mangan, Yakuhai Aka mangan, Yakuhai Aka Toitoi mangan, easy. Stuff like that. Well, demons. I mean, you know, I have my own opinions regarding demon. Can keep fire. Host is brought to your. Yeah, I mean, I should turn off my stream for.